Welcome to Playing the Big, Beautiful Long Game, where entrepreneurship meets spirituality. In this podcast, we explore the intersection of personal fulfillment, spiritual growth, and business success. This podcast delves into the idea that entrepreneurship is not just about profits or growing businesses. It's also about embracing purpose, meaning, and inner growth. Each episode features conversations with entrepreneurs and thought leaders who share their journeys of building businesses that align with their highest values and deepest calling. I'm your host, Debbie Zita. Sit back, relax, and thank you for being here. Welcome, beautiful Eleanor. Can you please tell the audience who you are and what it is that you do?
Absolutely. So my name is Eleanor Hadley, and I'm a certified sex educator and intimacy coach. And the work that I do centers all around sex, pleasure, and relationships. And everything that I do is for the purpose of helping people feel more confident in their sexuality.
Beautiful. I was just sharing before I hit record that I was watching you online and I was calling in beautiful women like you because in my framework, the six selves, we do touch on the sexual and creative self. And I felt like there wasn't enough women in the space that were bringing this educational elegance, but then equal parts like fun and sexy and sassy. And you seem to kind of have all of that and more. So I'm so genuinely so excited to share time and space with you. We've got questions, of course, but let's just jump in and chat. We don't know each other, so this is also our first meeting, which is equally exciting as well. I want to find out though, like what excites you? What gets you up in the morning?
Oh my goodness. Pleasure really is my driving force a lot of the time, and that's not always sexual pleasure. It's pleasure in like the simple things. One of my favorite things to do each morning is to lay in the sunshine on my balcony and seeking pleasure and enjoyment in my life in different ways, whether that's through work and the enjoyment that comes through my passion, or the pleasure in relationships and friendships and conversations. It's always very pleasure centered.
It's so beautiful. I would also imagine that the more that we can cultivate pleasure, like I'm looking outside my window and I wish I could show you the view here. There's beautiful blue sky, like yummy, fluffy white clouds. I can see the sun streaming through, potentially a little bit too strong. I love you, sun, but it's a bit hard to see some things as the light's reflecting off. But just, the beautiful colors of the green trees, the cars passing by, the trees in the distance, like it just keeps me so present. And I get to run meditation sessions from here, my coaching sessions. And where I was going though was cultivating, pleasure in terms of orgasmic pleasure, which is, I guess, the ultimate of part of what you teach, but we'll find out in a moment. But part of that comes from the pleasure of the day, your pleasure of your life, the pleasure of the clouds, the pleasure of your coffee. Perhaps it's mindfulness, perhaps that's presence. But I think we can start small and we don't have to jump into orgasms and everything else. But also, let's do talk about that today as well.
We'll
Um,
absolutely talk about it. But yeah,
Amazing.
I agree. I think that, coming from a sex educator, when I say pleasure, people assume I'm always talking about sexual pleasure and that pleasure equals sex. And yes, that is one way of experiencing pleasure, but really there's so many ways that you can explore pleasure in your life. And I like to think of it in sort of three different categories, if you will. We've got simple pleasure, we've got sensual pleasure, and then we've got sexual pleasure as well. And it's kind of like this spectrum. And you can find pleasure in just the simple everyday things, exactly like you're talking about, looking out your window and being really present and really aware of how beautiful what it is you're seeing is, and how beautiful it is to experience how things feel and how things taste, and being connected with your senses. I think that redefining what pleasure means to you in your life is such a beautiful way to live a more pleasure-centered life, to live more, I don't know, deliciously.
Yes, I love that. One of the practices I get my clients to do, and this is way more your area than mine. I don't have any official background in this particular aspect of my framework. But the reason it's in there is that, I went through a divorce, and part of the process for me to reclaim myself was to explore and to find out what it felt like to have the beautiful orgasms and to love my body and to connect with my body. And I found, something even simple like buying body wash and perfume and oil for my hair and just things like that really gave me that sense of connection. And then it might move into like a pleasure practice, or like now I feel really connected and turned on. I might do that, with myself or another, or I might not. I might just enjoy those feelings. And so, is there a simple way? Can you recommend something that we can do to kind of start that process?
I mean, I think you really just hit the nail on the head right there. That is such a powerful way to connect with your pleasure is through self-touch. And self-touch can look simply sensual, or it can like lead into a more sexual style of touch. But engaging in your senses and, getting some kind of beautiful body oil that feels amazing, that smells delicious, that makes you feel really sexual and sensual and like energetic, like that feels so, so delicious. That's a beautiful way. I also think movement is a great way to explore and to connect more with your sensuality. Just putting on a song that feels really fun and having a boogie around the kitchen can kind of take you out of your head and into your body. Or putting on a song that kind of inspires breath and it's a bit slower and more sexy or sultry or calming, and like touching your own body and exploring with some movement, some kind of really embodied movement that isn't about what it looks like, but it's about how it feels.
I love this. One of the favorite things I do, this is going to sound so funny, but it's like I'm so honest on this podcast, I'll just share it. But it's like this. I used to dance when I was little, like from 3 to 13. I would do ballet and jazz and hip hop, and I was always so self-conscious, and I actually hated it. But I friggin' love dancing.
Mm.
And one of the things I love to do is if I've got a beat, I can't not dance. Like if
Yeah.
Beyonce's on, if there's Latin on, if there's hip hop, even if I'm having the worst day, it's like my body just starts to do that. And then I found this is kind of funny, but I think you'll get it. Almost like dancing for myself. Like I'm not dancing for a partner. I'm not dancing to turn someone else on, but really allowing myself to feel my hips, to bring myself into that space of groundingness, of sensuality, and almost do that like a lap dance, or I don't know what the right word is, but that sensual kind of dance for me, for myself.
Mhm. That honestly, this is a huge part of my work and what I teach. I created a course years ago called The Art of Seduction, and it's all about embodied lap dance. And my philosophy when it comes to movement, dance, femininity, to sex and pleasure is all about the difference between embodiment and performance,
Yeah.
because I think that we are very, very conditioned to perform, whether that's performing our femininity by ticking off all these boxes and dressing a certain way or wearing certain things, and presenting ourselves in a certain way to please the other, whether it is performing our dance movements and being for someone else, being feeling like we're on a stage for someone else, or if it's in the bedroom, we feel like we're performing for another. We're putting on a performance and we're not really in our own bodies. And so my whole philosophy is about getting out of your head, getting into your body, not thinking that you have to perform and be perfect for another person and to please or benefit someone else, but instead it's all for you. Exactly like you're describing. Like it feels so delicious to dance and move and seduce yourself when you're dancing. And then if you choose to, you can share that with a partner and they can witness you and they can feel honored to be able to be in your presence, but you're not doing it for them. It's a
I
really different.
love this. I wish I knew this before my 40s.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I think also part of why I wanted to have this podcast was to reach those younger women and almost speak to those past versions of myself.
Mm.
I joke often on the podcast that I had a mum, bless her soul, she passed away 17 years ago and I miss her every day. But
Mm.
she taught me, put your face on, wear a short skirt, and you might meet your husband at 7-Eleven. And I'm
Mm.
like, Mum, I'm 6. And I'm joking, but sometimes I wish I could go up on like a stage and do a comedy routine about it. But it was from a very young age, and she meant well. Like I know it's actually I'll spare you the traumatic details, but it goes way back to third generation war survivor me, and Mum was second, and obviously my nana went through it. And so, well, I'll share it because we're here now. Essentially, in order for us to survive, we had to be that sexy, beautiful female.
Yeah.
It was literally a survival thing. And so that story consciously and subconsciously went into my mind, my whole body. And so that fueled my decisions and my kind of almost obsession. And anyone who knows me from those younger years will know it was like boyfriend breakup, boyfriend breakup, boyfriend, boyfriend breakup. I've never met a woman who's had so many breakups.
Mm.
Um, and it wasn't, it was because I was looking for myself
Yeah.
and I was looking to feel something within me because of what I'd experienced when I was younger that can never be filled outside by someone else. It's never from another.
Yeah.
There's no amount of sex or marriages, even for Elizabeth Taylor, that you can have that
Mm.
can feel that part of you. And that's why I became almost obsessed with this part of the conversations and why I built it into my coaching framework because the women that were coming to me
Mm.
were asking, but I don't want to sleep with my husband or I'm feeling disconnected or Deb, how did you do it? And so I would speak from my personal experience.
Yeah.
And then also, I don't know about you, but I would tap that. Like I would block myself. I'm a Sagittarian, I'm a fire sign. We're naturally kind of big feeling star signs. And
Mm.
so sensuality and sexuality is really important for me. And
Yeah.
I feel confident in it. I feel really good at that. And I don't want to have to pretend like I don't. And I also want to invite other women. Like, I'm not even asking a question. I just want to thank you for allowing me space to share this. But what can we share with other women who feel like they are really empowered, but they've had to block that for fear of attracting the wrong energies, or perhaps they've
Mm.
also been through trauma? What can we share with them?
Well, so firstly, I think it's really interesting what you're talking about in terms of like, the generational element there, and even just recognizing the role that our society and our upbringing has had in how we feel about ourselves and our sexuality. It's only in the past like couple generations that women have been able to take out a loan, to have a bank account, to be able to be financially independent. And so it's not far-fetched at all to say that our livelihood depended on us being chosen
Yeah.
by a man in the past. And that is a very, very like solid reality for a lot of people in older generations. And so it makes sense why that would have been passed down and why we have been taught by our mothers, make sure that you appeal to the other, make sure that you dress up and you're pleasing to someone else. And so it's important that we recognize why we are the way that we are and how we got here. There are so many messages that we have received growing up from our parents, from our society, from our teachers, from media, that tell us, that we should stay small, that we shouldn't talk about sex because it's a very taboo topic, that women shouldn't want sex, that if you do want sex, it means this or that about you. There's so many stories, right? And so the first thing that I do when I work with my clients in coaching is, what are the stories? Like, what's holding you back, right? We can't start talking about the future if we haven't recognized where we're at and how we got here. And then it's like, okay, I understand, I recognize, I have this story, this belief that tells me, for example, to want sex is to be slutty, right? And growing up, maybe that was the worst thing that you could have gotten called. Maybe it was the worst thing in high school. And
Yep.
there's been some kind of internalized, wound there that we have to kind of peel back and start to kind of work through. And then from there, it's like, okay, all right, now I'm going to give myself permission to be a sexual being because everyone is a sexual being. It varies depending on who you are, how important it is to you, but it is part of all of us. And whether you choose to share your sexuality with others or keep it for yourself, it's yours. I think that a lot of people get really caught up thinking that sexuality belongs to someone else. Again, this is for my partner. I'll perform this sexy routine in the bed for my partner. I'll try and be sexy for my partner. And I'll try and, get my little head tap, my, gold star or my tick box. Oh, I made them come, right? And it's all
Yes.
for them. And we forget about ourselves and we self-abandon in that way. And so I think it's really important to recognize, okay, what stories are blocking me? And then coming from a place of self-permission that you deserve pleasure and you deserve to like prioritize your pleasure and advocate for your own pleasure as well.
I love this so much, and I love the reminder because you made me realize that my story is not that unique. Even if people haven't gone through the war, it's actually women in general that have been through probably similar experiences with who you marry. And yes, and you have to get married. Otherwise, how will you survive? It was literally part of survival as well. So I actually never thought of it like that. So I just want to thank you for sharing that. That was really powerful. The other thing is, I was just thinking about, thinking back to when I was younger and in my 20s, and that this is just my journey because everyone's timeline and journey of learning is different. You might be very activated and aware of yourself in your 20s. I wasn't. But I'm thinking back to, even like my own pleasure and having, multiple orgasms and thinking, oh my God, this person must be the one, or this person knows me so well because this person gave me that. And what I realize now was a few things. It's like how beautiful, how amazing my body is that my body does that. How beautiful and amazing that together we shared this experience and these moments that we're gifting each other, as opposed to disempowering myself and pretending that that person was my soulmate, my twin flame, insert whatever language you want to in here, and therefore it must be that we're always to be together, which is not always the case.
I love this because, I think that we can absolutely get stuck on that story of like, oh, but the sex was so good with that one person, or it's only because of them that I was able to achieve X, Y, or Z. But I love this reframe of like, wow, my body is actually really capable of this. And an exercise that I often get my clients to do when they come to me specifically around like loss of libido or mismatched libido in a relationship. And
Yes.
I ask them, tell me about the best sex of your life, right? And often it's not with the partner that they're currently with,
I was
right?
just thinking that, oh God, can you go there?
They're like, oh, am I allowed?
Yeah,
But it gives you clues, right? It's not about the person, but
right.
it's about the situation. Often
Yeah.
they'll find, oh, it's contextual. We
Yeah.
were on holiday.
Mhm.
There were no like restrictions. We felt really relaxed. Like I had spent all day sunbathing and I felt really, really like soft and open. Or I trusted this person absolutely implicitly. I felt so safe with them. My body felt safe. Or maybe it was completely the opposite. And you're like, it was really exciting and fun and like a little bit edgy, and we were going to get caught, and that's what turned you on.
Yeah.
And so it's all just a fact-finding mission. You go, oh, okay. So the elements that made that sex really good for me personally were X, Y, and Z. And then how can you use those things to help you to like infuse that into your relationship
I
currently?
love this. I love this so much. I'm going to share again. This is very,
Mm.
very open of me. I have a pattern where if it's a very secure and safe relationship, then the sex is just,
Yeah.
and I'm not the only one, but it's like, oh, it's okay. And then if it's new or even not dangerous, I'm not one of those people in that way, but it's fine if you are. But for me, it was always almost like emotionally dangerous, meaning like, are we together? Are we not together? Is this a proper thing or just a little kind of short? That kind of dangerous was what, felt, a turn on for me. And I was talking to a therapist. It was actually a psychiatrist that I found myself. It was a very dark time in my life. And I was like, I need to go see someone in this way, not complimentary, not just a psychiatrist. And she was actually so fucking amazing. She's taking all the information down and she goes to me, Deb, we have to find a way to make you feel juicy and turned on while you are folding your socks.
I love
And I was
that.
like, how do we do that? She's like, well, that's what you have to figure out. I mean, isn't that so cute? It just summarizes that whole domestic thing that when it's someone that's safe, that's there, that you're folding the socks with or taking out the rubbish with or all those things, it's almost like that part of us just goes, well, I'm not really activated.
Yeah.
But as we know, a lot of sex is in the mind. It's creating, and what you were just talking about, fact finding, where was it juicy and good? Let's bring those parts in.
Absolutely. And I really like I love that phrase. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you want to feel juicy and turned on from holding this up. Like,
Yes.
and firstly, I want to say it is so, so common for us to have this in long-term relationships. So as soon as we feel safe and comfortable and almost like we've gotten the person, we are
Yeah.
in the relationship, okay, good. And yes, that is where a lot of people notice that the sex starts to dwindle and the fire kind of starts to just sort of, go down to a little steady simmer. And it's not about, oh, okay, we're doomed. It's just that there's a different shift now. And at the start, new relationship energy is so, so addictive.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that they fall in love at first sight, but it's often limerence. It's this feeling of like addiction. You're like, I can't stop. I'm craving this person. But eventually, when it does turn, if it's limerence, it turns into love. And that's more strong and steady. And it's this like, nice pulsing sort of continuous underlying thing. Whereas that new relationship energy is super, super exciting. And so it's not necessarily about we have to replicate the new relationship energy. It's more like, how can you start to, excite yourself a little bit more? How can you bring that spark back?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be exactly the same. It can grow and be different, and you can try new things together and kind of expand together
Yes.
rather than being like, oh, I guess I have to find a new person
Yeah.
to swoon over.
Yeah, so it's so true. And I think if I look back at conversations I've had with people over the years, this is going to sound very simplistic, but I think a lot of the separations or divorces, it's more
Mm.
complicated though than this, but it's often sex or money.
Yeah.
It's often the things that I hear people talking about. And if we can save a relationship, save a family, and help them have the tools to be able to bring that spark back, that would be the preference. I always do say everyone's path is different, and sometimes you are meant to leave that family or that partner and find a different partner that might be part of the soul's journey to do so.
Yeah.
But there are certainly, having been through divorce myself and having a lovely co-parenting relationship with my ex and his wife. But there are still challenges. There's a lot of emotional upheaval, financial upheaval that
Mm.
goes into that experience. So let's try and repair before we move away. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely that discernment there where it's like, is this something that is worth saving,
Yeah.
or is it actually a better option for all of us
Yeah.
to let it go?
Exactly. And each case is very different. Each case is different. I want to ask you, let's talk about, the work that you do and the programs that you offer. Uh,
Mm.
Last time I checked out your Insta, there was a few, I think like tongue tactics, or there was something online like that. Is that still part of what you're doing in terms of your offers?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got a suite of online courses. Tongue Tactics is one of them. It's my most popular program
Yeah.
by far. I've got, I think, over 1,200 students in there now.
Wow.
It's, as the name suggests, it's all about the tongue tactics. There's
Yeah.
two versions. I've got BJ Queen and then Pussy Pro. So
I
depending
love
on
it.
who you like to go down on, I've got you sorted. It's the
Cool.
most practical of my courses where it's like really just like straight to it. Here's how to do what you need to do. And
Okay.
like I can't even tell you the amount of reviews from that particular course. Like they are out of control. It's
Wow. Congratulations. That's very cool. I love it.
Yeah, and then I've got, other courses that are movement based, for example, the art of sensual movement and the art of seduction, that lap dance one I was mentioning before. And then my most recent is called Lust and Libido, and that's all about people who are experiencing mismatched desire, low desire, differentiation in their desire, and wanting to explore how to up level their libido and get that spark back in relationship as well.
Amazing. And it sounds like you work with both men and women.
I do, yeah, predominantly women, but people of all genders for sure.
Okay. And how do we or the person listening or watching know that it's time for them to, send you an email or send you a DM on Insta?
Oh, thank you. If you are feeling disconnected to your sexuality. If anything in this episode made you kind of squeamish or like yearn for a better sex life, then yeah, I'm here. Slide on into the DMs.
I love it. Beautiful. Absolutely amazing. Okay, where else can we go? I want to find out maybe how did you get started? Like what was the because this is for me, this might be my own projections and judgment, but it's like you've got to be a powerful woman to be able to hold space for people in their sexuality. And so
Hmm.
I'm wondering if there was a moment, and there sometimes is, but sometimes it's a few moments.
Yeah.
But if there was a moment or a few moments that led you to that place of like, this is what I'm here to do, what were they?
Yeah, it was really like an unfolding for me. There wasn't one day that I was like, sex education, that's what I'm going to dedicate my life to.
Yeah.
It kind of revealed itself. I come from a dance background. I was a dancer all growing up. I got obsessed with pole dancing when I was in my like 18, 19, early 20s,
Yeah.
um, to the point where I ended up purchasing a pole dancing studio in Melbourne.
Oh,
I
wow.
ran that for 4 years. It was Pole Divas, just
I
literally.
remember Pearl Divas. Wait a
She's still
second.
there.
I actually think I did a hens night. I sprained my wrist on one of the hens nights.
Oh
What
no.
year were you running pole? Maybe that's why I felt a connection with you. What year was
That is so funny. Well, I hope that one of my instructors didn't cause that
it
sprain.
would have just been me not connecting to my body and being like way too excited to be in that room and then like not moving it properly. Um,
That's funny.
yeah, what it was Chapel Street. Was that
Yeah, it was just off Chapel Street,
yeah?
Cecil Place. So I had the studio from about 2014 to 2018.
Yeah, I'm pretty I won't say her name, but a girl from school who I'm in touch with online very rarely, but lovely girl. I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure it was her hens night and it was a
amazing.
very memorable experience.
Oh, good.
Definitely pulled in a very good way.
Oh.
It's definitely Paul Divas. That's really funny. It's so
That's so yeah, it's so funny how often it comes up. A lot of people are like, oh my
yeah,
God, anyone in Melbourne tends to
yeah,
know of pole divas.
yeah,
So I purchased an existing studio, that one in Cecil Place,
yeah.
and ran that for 4 years,
Wow.
teaching pole dancing classes several days a week. I had a whole team of amazing instructors and staff, and I saw throughout those 4 years and like my experience as well, just seeing how people would come to their first class just so nervous and shy and just feeling quite timid and not super confident in their body. And then a few weeks later, they're flipping upside down, wearing short shorts in like 8-inch heels and just feeling super sassy and comfortable in their skin. And it was just such a beautiful thing to witness. I even had students who were referred by their psychologists to come
Wow.
to pole dancing classes for their confidence. And it was just such a beautiful thing to see and to be part of.
It's so
And
cool.
it really just like it solidified how powerful movement
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
um, for your confidence, but especially in terms of feeling comfortable in your body and your sensuality. Not necessarily sexuality, that was kind of like an added bonus,
Yeah.
but for women to come and feel like they had a safe place to be
Yes.
able to express a side of them that they had always repressed,
Yes.
and not to do it for men in particular. It wasn't for the male gaze. It
Yeah.
wasn't even necessarily for the female gaze. It was for
Yeah.
themselves, right? They're looking at themselves in the mirror. They're like performing at the Christmas showcase and they're just feeling so good in their body, because they can do these cool tricks. They're flipping upside down. They're like rolling around on the ground. And it was so beautiful to witness that change. And so that really, really solidified that movement is so powerful.
Yes.
And I got to a point where I was like, okay, this is so powerful and I want to do something more with it.
Uh-huh.
I went through in my last year of owning the studio, I went through a big, big breakup, like the big breakup. And it just totally crushed me.
Yeah.
The way that I found healed me
Yeah.
in so many ways was every night after I finished teaching classes, I would lock the door behind the last student. I would turn the lights down low. I would turn the music up high, and I would just roll around on the floor and dance out my feelings.
Yeah.
And I would forget about choreography. I would
Yeah.
forget about perfect technique and I would just move. And it was so healing. It was like my dance therapy.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to do something with this. You know, with pole, there's so much performance element that kind of came into it throughout that period, and still now there's a lot of competitions and state competitions, national competitions, and it's a really cool like how you can train up to becoming an elite pole dancer where you're competing in these amazing shows. And I noticed that the industry was kind of heading towards that way where everyone wanted to be, in Miss Pole Dance Australia, that was like the ultimate. You wanted to be on that stage.
Yes.
And I went through that. But then after this breakup experience, I was like, you know what? I actually don't want to perform anymore. I don't want it to be about perfection and I don't want it to be about like being seen and like performing for another person. And so I sold the studio and I started my own movement practice. And it was no mirrors, it was no choreography. I called it sensual yoga at the time. It transitioned into just the art of sensual movement. And it was just a guided practice that just got you out of your head and into your body and into your like feminine expression.
Yeah.
It was less about these like rigid, like
Yeah.
straight lines and more about this like full body kind of circular, fluid movement. And that really inspired me. I saw how powerful that practice was. And then I was talking at the time on social media. I started sharing my thoughts on sensuality and I was like obsessed. I was like, sensuality, have you guys heard of this? It's amazing. Embodiment, it's so cool. And I had someone suggest that I would make a good coach. And I was like, I don't understand what that means. I looked into it, studied life coaching.
Yeah.
Naturally, I specialized in sensuality.
Yeah.
Then I got more and more interested in sexuality, like the next, you know,
Yeah.
level. And then I studied like a lot of like tantra and a lot of self-study. And then I eventually did my sex coaching certification as well. And it just kind of, again, it revealed itself to me. I didn't know this is where I was going to end up, but here
Oh,
I
wow. I love it. I love hearing about the journey. I love the evolution.
am.
I love that you were in Melbourne.
Mm.
So many things. Okay. I want to share. So I love movement. And
Yeah.
because I did dancing as well,
Mm.
I love when I can just do my own thing. And I was at a 40th on the weekend.
Yeah.
Very rough crowd.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm always the first on the dance floor.
Yeah.
I always start a conga line, and I honestly I don't I know I can't help it. I don't do it like for the attention, although I do kind of like that. But I do it because I love to feel that there's music in the room and I can express myself. And it's one of those things where I feel like because I've been through so much, and I
Mm.
held it all together and I held it in. That's one place when I can just go boom and just move my body. And it does usually activate the crowd. It was, as I said, it was a bit of a rough crowd that night. So there was only about like three of us on the dance floor the whole night. But
Mm.
where I was going was I had this idea earlier this year, and I'm gonna share it because I'm in my like speak things into existence kind of era.
Mm.
Let's set the intention if ever you're in Melbourne or if ever I come to Brisbane, I want to do like a holding space really for women, where
Mm.
it's like they get to come and choose a song that
Mm.
represents honestly any emotion. It can be the sexy, juicy Beyonce stuff. It can also be grief. It can be something that is slower and softer. And I want to have these beautiful women there. I'll do a heart activation because that's my thing, one of my things, and just holding space for each other with these different songs and moving. And if you want to just move by clapping your hands because you're not a dancer, that's fine. If your movement is, full ballet and grangettes and whatever, we don't mind. There's no judgment. It's whatever your body needs to move through that emotion. So I'm just setting the intention for this,
Beautiful.
whatever this event is, that I want to co-run it with you. So putting it out there.
Oh, that sounds so beautiful.
Wouldn't that be amazing to have a place to go? I just had a breakup and I just need some girls to hold me in this.
Yeah.
Here's
Yeah.
my song.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so beautiful. And like music is so powerful, it can really like evoke different emotions. And I remember, when I was going through this breakup phase, I put on some song that was like I feel like it was a Khalees song or something, and it's called I don't know if it's called, but the lyrics were like I hate you so much right now. And I remember I had my like big 8-inch heels on. I was
Know this
smashing my
song.
heels on the floor, and I was
I
like,
hate you so much right now.
yeah,
And she
you know
screams.
it.
Yeah, yeah. And her hair is
Seriously?
really big. I fucking love that song because we as women, we don't get to express our anger. And it's those
Yeah.
kind of songs that let us really feel. I know the exact song. I'm going to play it afterwards.
Oh my God.
I
It
love
was
it.
so
Yeah,
cathartic. I remember it so like viscerally because I was
yeah,
like, yeah, I was so angry and I was
yeah,
like, but I often would hold it together and I would understand where the other person was coming from and blah blah blah. But
yeah.
I was just fucking angry and
All
I needed
that
to
good
get it
fucking
out.
girl conditioning, right?
Yeah.
Such a
But it was
good
just
girl. I
like,
release it
get
and
it out. Yeah.
yeah,
And like to have a safe space to do that,
yeah.
because it's like I don't need to carry that with me.
No,
I don't need to always be angry. It's just I
no.
need to release it because
Yes,
otherwise it lays dormant inside me
yes.
unaddressed.
You're
And
talking to
that's
a
it.
woman. I went through, and I love this community. I'll never say who it is, so no one ever ask me. But I
Mm,
went through a practice in a community that was all around surrender and surrender. And I had gone through significant trauma, and I was also going through trauma at that same time. And that whole thing of just surrender, did not serve me. It's not
mm,
that I'm saying from a spiritual perspective that we shouldn't surrender. You definitely should. But what was required for me was a level of connection to my anger and frustration and to switch on my power while my heart was open, while I was surrendering. So
mm.
I share that because I don't want to see any other woman that's like, I'm okay, I'm surrendering and everything's okay. You can hear it in their voice. It
Yeah.
often goes up and like it does that. You can feel
Yeah.
when their power center is not switched on. And we're supposed to have our hearts open, our mind active and open, and our power center switched on and
Yeah.
everything else activated in our chakras too, right? It's not supposed to just be one thing. So yes, swear and dance and move, especially women again, because we're taught not to, which
Yeah.
is not the correct thing. That's not healthy. Let it out, girls. Let it come out.
Yeah.
Express it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cathartic, it's just the basic principles of somatics, it's getting like connecting the mind and the body and feeling it through
Yes.
once you express it, whether it's grief or anger or resentment or like overwhelming joy, whatever it is, you've got to kind of move it through your system because
Yes.
otherwise it just stays there dormant and it can turn into other things. And it's like having that safe space to do it just changes everything so, so much because there's not a lot of safe spaces that you can do it, you
No,
know?
and it's very sad. And I know we've got a lot of like women's only things happening, which is really special and lovely. And I hope, as a mother to a son, of a beautiful, beautiful son, sweet soul, that we can live on a planet where it doesn't have to be this way, where the rise of the feminine power is filtering through women and men and opening hearts and helping those that are going through the emotional states of being a narcissist or a predator, all the things that unfortunately most women in their 40s have already been through, if not at least once, multiple times, that we don't have to. It shouldn't have to be that way. But
Mhm.
we're right in it. We're in that social time, economically, politically, emotionally, where we are in it. But it's women like you and I, and women who are listening, who run businesses, who run charities, who are in leadership positions, who have open hearts and active mouths to speak, to be able to say that stuff's not okay, and you're loved and worthy, and yeah, express it, move it, and then do good shit in the world.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful. I love that.
Let's move into our last couple of questions, which is using my framework. Which self is your favorite and why? And I think we know.
I feel like I would be doing my whole brand and personality a disservice if I didn't say the sexual self. But yes, that's absolutely where my mind
Yeah.
immediately went. It's like, yep, that's the one for me
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we know why, for all the reasons that you've shared around expression and sensuality. And,
Mm.
we didn't say this, but even health,
Mhm.
it's, this is going to sound funny. It's an apple a day keeps the doctor away. I would argue an orgasm a day keeps the doctor away, ladies.
There are a lot of health benefits to orgasms. It's pain relief, natural pain relief. Kissing, making out, like helps boost your immune system.
Yep.
Oxytocin, we've got all like the feel good stuff. Like, yeah, make out more often, have an
Yep.
orgasm a day.
Sounds good to me. We are speaking the same language. Lucky last question is, what advice do you have for others who are creating a business that serves both the world and their heart?
I would say don't forget about pleasure. You can have these big goals and this big vision, something that you're creating, but don't forget about the small moments of joy and pleasure and enjoyment in your life along the way as well.
Beautiful. Amazing. Is there anything else that you would like to share or anything that I can do to support you and your mission?
Oh, thank you. No, I feel like we covered a lot of my favorite things. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Amazing.
happy with that. Thank you.
Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
The information provided on this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be considered medical, health, or financial advice. Always consult with a qualified health professional or financial advisor before making any decisions related to your personal health or finances.